Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. Welcome back to GEEXX Reads. Today we're talking about Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman, an image of which you will see here. This is a book we were reading for book club. Technically, we're still reading it, but the conversation has died out, so normally I'd wait, but there's been no new conversations for a couple weeks, so most people have kind of given up. They already finished the book and moved on. So anyway, read this book club. The general plot outline of this is that an alien corporation has seized control of the Earth, killed off most of its inhabitants, and flung the rest of it into a survival type game. Literally a survivor type game. Whoever lives to the end of it can technically claim ownership of the Earth, something which, as we learn, no one has ever technically done, because as you progress through the dungeon, deeper and deeper into layers, they get harder and harder and harder. Carl is one of the survivors, winds up going, no one knows what's happening. This reminds me a bit of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy in that there's a certain level of corporate bureaucracy involved. Technically, there are rules to the game. The organization made contact with Earth thousands of years ago, so technically we've been informed of what's going to happen, and we had a couple thousand years to prevent this had we gone through the proper channels. So the game is rigged. And their plan is basically to strip mine the Earth for its resources, providing no one wins the game, and the game is rigged. So, no one actually knows what's going on. Carl kind of finds some of this stuff out as he goes through the dungeon. And he manages to take his girlfriend's cat with him into the dungeon. Through advanced technology, she is given enhanced intelligence. It plays like a mixture between a video game and a role play and a dungeon, a D&D adventure. As you play the game, you level up, you gain new skills, new abilities. This is all I want to say computer generated. It's not like a Matrix type video game, but through advanced technology, they kind of make things happen, which seem like magic, but aren't really if you know the science behind it. It's one of those, any advanced technology seems magical if you to someone who is less advanced. It falls into that category. But the people who run the dungeon can basically twist reality any way they want, more or less. Much like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, this is kind of over-the-top, bombastic, and darkly humorous. It is darker than Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. This is definitely darker. Whereas Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is more like whimsical and absurd. This is more like a black comedy kind of thing. It's not hilariously funny. There are some funny moments. There are some things that do make you chuckle. But it is taken more seriously than Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And as Matt progresses through the level, the levels he finds a trainer, someone who will tell him the rules. There are also like safe zones where you can't attack other players. The dynamic between the cat and Carl. The cat is a show cat, like a professional purebred show cat, whose title is Princess Donut. That is who she is. Once she's given, complete intelligence, she is just as intelligent as Carl is, but she is a pampered show cat. She is self-centered. She behaves like a cat. in spite of the fact that she can talk now, yeah, she is completely interested in herself. She behaves like you would think a cat would, if it could talk. And a lot of the comedy comes from their interactions, from, you know, Donut treating Carl like he's a servant, and that he's stupid. There's a lot of comedy there. The one thing I will say, as a criticism, is that, like I said, this it's kind of over the top. The violence is somewhat cartoonish a lot of the times, but only a lot of the times. There are 3 or 4 instances where the violence stops being cartoonish and starts being very, very dark and serious. And those switches happen very suddenly. You are very quickly, you very quickly go from, oh, this is just kind of like video game violence, like, oh crap, no, it's not. And those moments kind of hit you in the face. And it's very jarring. I don't know, there's no lead up to it. It's all, it's, yeah, we're going along, this is video game violence, and all of a sudden you're just punched in the gut. And for me, that transition was unsettling, because you don't expect it. You'll go through 50, 60 pages of this cartoonish violence, then to be all of a sudden be slammed in the face with something that's deadly serious and horrible. And you're like, this isn't fun anymore, kind of thing. And it's because those instances are so few and happen so suddenly and unexpectedly. Well, at least the first one's unexpected. The rest of the time you're just kind of, is this situation going to get really, really bad? The rest, it's like going from Bugs Bunny to Freddy Krueger. It's not even Freddy Krueger's too cartoonish. It's like going from Bugs Bunny to Silence of the Lambs. That might be a bit too extreme, but it's that level of seriousness. You get from it's just this dichotomy that, like I said, I found very jarring. But once I got into the book, I found it really hard to put down. When we do the book club, I tend to only read the sections we're supposed to talk about, to not, because I find it hard to have the conversations we're supposed to have about the sections we've read without thinking about stuff that's happening happening farther in the book than we're supposed to read. So I try and keep my knowledge to what we're supposed to talk about, and I found that very difficult with this book. I found it very, very difficult to put down and, like, say, okay, I've read my chapters. It's like, I really, really want to read the next chapters. I could have burned through this book in a couple of days, which, considering how I felt about a lot of the books I've been reading recently, I found very refreshing. That a book finally grabbed, of all the new books that I've been reading, only a few of them have grabbed me this tightly and made me want to keep reading. A lot of the other books that I just, I've got to struggle to get through them. But this book was definitely worth the read. It's definitely fun. And I've already bought the second book, and I do plan on finishing out. There's 7 or 8 books out now. The dungeon has, I think, 20 levels. I can't remember offhand. And I think that, like, the furthest anyone has ever made it is level 13. So if with 8 books, I'm not sure how long he plans on keeping this going. Whether or not he does 1 or 2 levels a book. We shall see. Anyway, Dungeon Crawler Call by Matt Dinniman. Good read. Definitely fun for nerds, because there's a lot of pop culture references and stuff. And a lot of, like, it plays like a D&D video game. Anyway, as always, thanks for watching. As always, my stuff is crap. And until next time, good hunting.